Welcome back to Myths Unraveled. Like and subscribe if you enjoy this video. King Solomon's wisdom is one of the most celebrated aspects of his reign, and it is epitomized in the famous story of the two women who came before him, both claiming to be the mother of the same child. This event, recorded in the biblical Book of Kings, is not just a testament to Solomon's intelligence, but it also reveals deep insights into human nature, justice, and the power of discernment. The judgment Solomon delivers in this case reflects the divine wisdom he was believed to possess, offering a glimpse into the qualities that made him one of the most revered rulers in history. The story begins with two women who live in the same house, both of whom had recently given birth. Tragically, one of the children dies in the night. Each woman claims that the surviving child is hers, and neither is willing to yield. In such a situation, where there is no clear evidence to support one claim over the other, the typical response might be to give the child to one woman or the other, based on the strength of their argument or emotional appeal. However, Solomon, whose wisdom was renowned, approaches the problem in a manner that was completely unexpected. Instead of attempting to sort through their arguments or relying on physical evidence, Solomon offers a seemingly cruel solution. He suggests that the child be cut in half, with each woman receiving half of the baby. This proposal, while shocking, is not intended as a real solution, but as a test of the women's true feelings for the child. It is a moment of profound insight into the nature of motherhood and the depth of a mother's love for her child. As expected, one of the women immediately protests, offering to give up her claim to the child in exchange for its life. The other, seemingly indifferent to the child's fate, agrees to the idea of dividing the baby. It is at this point that Solomon's wisdom becomes clear. By offering a solution that no true mother could accept, he was able to identify the real mother without any ambiguity. The woman who was willing to sacrifice her claim in order to save the child was the true mother, and Solomon immediately awarded her the child. This judgment is not just an example of legal wisdom, but of psychological insight. Solomon's solution shows an understanding of human nature that goes beyond intellectual ability. He recognized that a mother's love is not based on ownership or possessiveness, but on the preservation and well-being of the child. His decision to test the women's responses highlighted his ability to think beyond conventional solutions, to see deeper motivations, and to discern the truth in a way that no one else could. The story of Solomon's judgment reveals several important themes that are central to his wisdom. First, it highlights the nature of true wisdom, which is not just knowledge, but an ability to understand the complexities of human behavior and emotion. Solomon's wisdom was not simply a matter of being able to solve problems with logical answers, but of seeing the world through a deeper lens, one that could comprehend the subtleties of the human heart. His approach to the situation was not about finding a straightforward answer, but about understanding the fundamental nature of what was at stake, the life of a child, and the maternal bond. Second, the judgment demonstrates Solomon's ability to rise above personal biases and emotions. While both women were undoubtedly distraught, Solomon was able to detach himself from the emotional turmoil of the situation and focus on the objective reality, what the child needed. This objectivity allowed him to see through the confusion and to discern the truth. His wisdom was not clouded by sentiment or personal attachment, a quality that many leaders struggle with. In this moment, Solomon demonstrated a level of clarity and composure that enabled him to make a judgment based on reason and insight rather than emotion. Another critical aspect of the judgment is Solomon's deep understanding of justice. Unlike the leaders who might have been swayed by appearances, social status, or the force of each woman's argument, Solomon's idea of justice was based on a deeper, more universal principle, the protection of the innocent and the preservation of life. His judgment was not about punishing the woman who had wronged the other, but about ensuring that the true mother was reunited with her child, and that the child was spared. Solomon's approach to justice is not just punitive, but restorative, focusing on healing and the restoration of what is right. His wisdom allowed him to perceive the broader picture, where the truth was not always immediately evident, but required deeper exploration. Moreover, this judgment reveals how Solomon's wisdom was not just theoretical or abstract, but deeply practical. He was not merely a philosopher engaged in intellectual exercises, but a king who was concerned with the real-world consequences of his decisions. Solomon's wisdom was grounded in the reality of the situations he faced as a ruler, and he was able to apply his knowledge in ways that were directly relevant to the lives of those around him. His judgment in this case was not just a matter of solving a legal dispute, but of preserving the sanctity of life and family, issues that were immediately important to the people he ruled. The story of the two women also speaks to the broader themes of leadership and the qualities that make a ruler effective. A leader, particularly a ruler as powerful as Solomon, must be able to make difficult decisions that are not always popular or easy. Solomon's judgment was in many ways a test of his leadership. It was a decision that required courage, as he was willing to present a seemingly harsh solution to uncover the truth. But it was also a test of his understanding of human nature and his ability to lead with wisdom rather than force or authority alone. Solomon's leadership was not about imposing his will on others, but about guiding them to the right path through understanding, empathy, and insight. The reaction of the people to Solomon's judgment also serves to underscore the impact of wisdom in leadership. When Solomon delivered his judgment, it was not only the two women who understood the wisdom of his decision, but also the entire nation. The people were in awe of Solomon's ability to see through the problem and to render a judgment that was both fair and deeply insightful. His wisdom earned him respect and admiration, not only from the people of Israel, but from rulers and leaders of other nations as well. The story of the judgment spread, and Solomon's reputation as a wise and just king grew. It became one of the defining moments of his reign, and a symbol of the power of wisdom in leadership. This story is often used to illustrate the divine wisdom that was believed to have been granted to Solomon by God. It shows that true wisdom is not just about intellect or knowledge, but about the ability to understand people, situations, and the world in a way that goes beyond the surface. Solomon's wisdom allowed him to make decisions that were in the best interests of his people, even when those decisions were difficult or required him to take an unconventional approach. His ability to see beyond the obvious and to understand the complexities of human relationships and emotions set him apart as a ruler and made him one of the most revered figures in history. In conclusion, the judgment of the two women is a powerful example of Solomon's wisdom in action. It demonstrates not just his intellectual ability, but his deep understanding of human nature, his capacity for empathy, and his commitment to justice. This story has endured because it encapsulates the qualities that make a leader great: the ability to see the truth, the wisdom to make difficult decisions, and the strength to act in the best interests of all. Solomon's wisdom, as illustrated by this judgment, remains one of the most enduring legacies of his reign, a timeless lesson in leadership and justice. King Solomon's construction of the first temple in Jerusalem is one of the defining achievements of his reign. The temple, often referred to as Solomon's Temple, represented not just a physical structure, but a deeply symbolic act of religious devotion, unity, and divine favor. Its construction was one of the most ambitious and important projects of the ancient world, and it stood as a symbol of the covenant between the God of Israel and the people of Israel. Solomon's temple was the fulfillment of his father King David's dream of building a permanent house for God, a place where the presence of the divine could dwell among the Israelites. Solomon's role in this monumental undertaking demonstrated both his leadership and his commitment to the religious and cultural identity of his kingdom. The desire to build a temple for God had been on David's mind for many years. However, as the scriptures recount, David was not permitted to build it himself. Instead, God told him that his son Solomon would be the one to carry out this important task. David, although disappointed, supported his son in every way possible, gathering materials, arranging skilled laborers, and laying the groundwork for what would become the temple. Solomon, as king, not only inherited the materials and plans laid out by his father, but was also entrusted with the responsibility of completing the sacred task that would shape the future of Israel's worship and cultural identity. The temple's construction was not merely a matter of constructing a building, but a profound act of spiritual and political significance. Solomon's temple was meant to serve as the dwelling place of God's presence on earth, the focal point of the Israelite people's faith, and the center of their religious practices. In this sense, the temple was a physical representation of the relationship between the people of Israel and their God. By building the temple, Solomon was ensuring that Israel would have a permanent, centralized place of worship that would unite the people and serve as a symbol of divine protection and blessing. It was to be a reflection of the grandeur and holiness of God, a place that would elevate the spirit and bring the people closer to the divine. One of the key aspects of the temple's significance was its role in centralizing the worship of God. Before the temple was built, the Israelites worshipped God in various locations, often in high places or at different shrines. These practices were not always unified, and the Israelites were sometimes influenced by the religious practices of the surrounding cultures. Solomon's decision to build the temple in Jerusalem, the capital of his kingdom, was an attempt to unify the people of Israel under a single central place of worship. By doing so, Solomon not only consolidated the political power of Israel, but also reinforced the central role of Jerusalem in the nation's religious and cultural life. The temple would become the primary place for the Israelites to offer sacrifices, pray, and seek God's favor, ensuring that Jerusalem remained the spiritual heart of Israel. The temple itself was a marvel of ancient architecture, described in great detail in the biblical texts. It was built of the finest materials, including cedar wood from Lebanon and stones from quarries near Jerusalem. Solomon spared no expense in constructing the temple, and its design was meant to reflect the holiness and glory of God. The temple was divided into several sections, each with its own specific purpose. The most sacred part of the temple was the Holy of Holies, a chamber where the Ark of the Covenant was kept. This was considered the most sacred space in all of Israel, a place where God's presence was said to dwell in a unique and intimate way. Only the high priest could enter the Holy of Holies, and even then, only on the Day of Atonement. In addition to the Holy of Holies, the temple also contained other areas for priests to conduct rituals, offer sacrifices, and perform various religious duties. The temple courtyard was a space where the people could gather, offer sacrifices, and worship. The altar, where animals were sacrificed, stood at the center of the courtyard, and the whole area was designed to accommodate the numerous rituals that were an essential part of Israelite religious practice. Solomon's attention to detail in the design and construction of the temple demonstrated his deep commitment to ensuring that every aspect of the building reflected the majesty and holiness of God. Solomon's temple also had a profound political and cultural impact on the Kingdom of Israel. The temple became a symbol of Solomon's reign and a testament to his leadership. By building the temple, Solomon not only affirmed his role as a divinely chosen ruler, but also established his dynasty as the legitimate line of kings in Israel. The temple was a visible representation of the king's close relationship with God, and it was through the temple that the king and the people could maintain their covenant with the divine. Solomon's reign, marked by peace, prosperity, and international alliances, was closely tied to the success of the temple, and its construction was a key part of the broader political vision he had for Israel. The temple also became a focal point for the people's identity and their understanding of themselves as a chosen people. The Israelites' relationship with God was at the core of their national identity, and the temple was the physical manifestation of that relationship. The rituals conducted at the temple, from daily offerings to the annual festivals, helped to shape the spiritual and cultural life of the nation. By centralizing worship in Jerusalem, Solomon reinforced the idea that Israel was unique among the nations, a people set apart by God for a special purpose. The temple was not just a religious center, it was a symbol of Israel's covenant with God, a sign of their unique role in the world. The international dimension of the temple's construction is also worth noting. The building of the temple was a collaborative effort that involved both Israelites and foreign workers. Solomon entered into a series of alliances with neighboring kingdoms, particularly the Phoenicians, who were renowned for their skills in construction and craftsmanship. The most famous of these alliances was with King Hiram of Tyre, who provided Solomon with cedar wood, skilled artisans, and other materials essential for the temple's construction. This collaboration between Israel and its neighbors helped to cement Solomon's position as a powerful and respected leader in the ancient Near East. It also demonstrated his diplomatic acumen and his ability to bring together different cultures and peoples for a common purpose. Despite its grandeur, Solomon's temple was not destined to last forever. After Solomon's death, the kingdom of Israel was divided, and the temple, along with the city of Jerusalem, would face numerous challenges. Eventually, the Babylonians would destroy the temple in 586 BCE, and the people of Israel would be exiled. Yet, the legacy of the temple endured long after its physical destruction. The image of Solomon's temple became a symbol of Israel's glory and their relationship with God, and the hope for its restoration became an important theme in the prophetic writings of the Hebrew Bible. The temple was seen as a symbol of divine favor and the ideal of a united Israel, and the hope for its rebuilding was a central part of the Jewish faith for centuries to come. In conclusion, Solomon's construction of the temple in Jerusalem was one of the most significant events of his reign, marking a pivotal moment in Israel's history. The temple represented the centralization of worship, the physical manifestation of the covenant between God and the people of Israel, and the pinnacle of Solomon's reign. It was not just an architectural feat, but a spiritual, cultural, and political achievement that solidified Solomon's legacy as one of Israel's greatest rulers. Through the construction of the temple, Solomon established Jerusalem as the spiritual and political heart of Israel, ensuring that it would remain a symbol of divine favor for generations. Solomon's wisdom and the way it shaped his reign was reflected in the many proverbs and sayings attributed to him. His role as the author of the Book of Proverbs, a collection of wise sayings, demonstrated his deep understanding of human nature and his ability to provide practical guidance on how to live a just, moral, and successful life. These proverbs, though rooted in the context of ancient Israel, have endured for centuries because they speak to universal truths about relationships, leadership, morality, and the human experience. The wisdom Solomon imparted through the proverbs was not just theoretical or abstract. It was deeply practical and aimed at improving everyday life. The Proverbs cover a wide range of topics, from the importance of wisdom and understanding to advice on how to behave in the world, manage wealth, interact with others, and seek spiritual fulfillment. Solomon's wisdom extended beyond the realm of politics and governance. It also offered guidance on personal conduct and the broader moral fabric of society. One of the key themes in Solomon's Proverbs is the importance of wisdom and the pursuit of understanding. He often emphasized that wisdom was the foundation for a well-lived life, and that it was to be sought above all else. Wisdom, in Solomon's view, was not simply a matter of intelligence or knowledge. It was the ability to discern right from wrong, to understand the deeper meaning of life, and to make decisions that lead to peace, prosperity, and happiness. For Solomon, wisdom was a divine gift, one that required humility, reverence, and a willingness to learn. He repeatedly urged people to seek wisdom, as if it were a treasure to be mined, highlighting its value as the key to success in all areas of life. The concept of wisdom in Solomon's Proverbs is closely tied to the idea of moral integrity. Solomon often emphasized that wisdom was not just about intellectual pursuits, but about living in accordance with divine and moral principles. For instance, he regularly warned against the dangers of pride, dishonesty, and foolishness. He spoke of the value of humility, kindness, and honesty, stressing that these virtues were essential for building strong relationships and maintaining a just society. By adhering to these values, Solomon suggested one could avoid the pitfalls of sin and make choices that would benefit both oneself and the community. One of the most famous proverbs that encapsulates Solomon's emphasis on moral integrity is found in Proverbs 3:5-6, where he writes, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths." This passage reflects Solomon's belief that true wisdom comes from a deep personal relationship with God, and that human understanding alone is not enough to navigate the complexities of life. The key to wisdom, according to Solomon, was to seek God's guidance and trust in his wisdom above all else. This divine wisdom was the ultimate source of clarity and direction in a world often filled with uncertainty and confusion. Another important aspect of Solomon's wisdom, as reflected in his Proverbs, was the emphasis on the consequences of one's actions. Many of his sayings are cautionary in nature, warning against behaviors that can lead to personal or societal downfall. For instance, he warned against laziness, which leads to poverty, and against anger, which leads to strife. Solomon believed that personal behavior had far-reaching consequences, not just for the individual, but for the broader community. His proverbs often serve as a guide for making wise decisions that lead to a fulfilling and prosperous life. Solomon's proverbs also reflect his understanding of the human condition. He recognized that people are prone to temptation, folly, and selfishness, and he spoke to these weaknesses in a way that was both empathetic and corrective. His wisdom acknowledged the complexities of human nature and the difficulty of living a righteous life in a world full of challenges and distractions. As a result, many of his proverbs include advice on how to overcome these human tendencies. For example, he counseled against associating with bad company, knowing that the people we surround ourselves with can influence our actions and character. He also warned against the dangers of excess, whether in food, drink, or material wealth, and emphasized the importance of moderation and self-control. One of the unique features of Solomon's proverbs is their emphasis on the value of relationships. He often spoke about the importance of friendship, marriage, and family, recognizing that these relationships were central to a person's well-being and success in life. Solomon's advice on relationships is grounded in his understanding of the importance of mutual respect, trust, and love. For example, he highlighted the value of a faithful spouse and the importance of maintaining harmony in the home. He also recognized that good relationships with others were essential for both personal happiness and the overall health of society. Solomon also understood the importance of wise leadership and governance. Many of his proverbs focus on the qualities of a good leader, emphasizing the need for wisdom, fairness, and humility in those who hold power. He often contrasted the behavior of wise rulers with that of foolish kings, highlighting the destructive effects of corruption, arrogance, and selfishness. Solomon's proverbs provide insight into his belief that leaders should be just and compassionate, seeking the welfare of their people rather than their own gain. This idea is captured in Proverbs 29:40, where Solomon writes, "The king who judges the poor with fairness, his throne will be established forever." For Solomon, the foundation of good leadership was rooted in righteousness and the willingness to listen to others, to seek wisdom, and to make decisions that would benefit the community as a whole. In his Proverbs, Solomon also addressed the nature of wealth, poverty, and the pursuit of material gain. He recognized that while wealth can provide comfort and security, it is not the ultimate source of happiness. Solomon frequently warned against the dangers of coveting riches and placing one's trust in material possessions. He spoke about the fleeting nature of wealth and how it could lead to greed and discontent. Instead, Solomon urged people to find contentment in what they had and to seek wisdom, righteousness, and peace above all else. One of his most famous sayings in this regard is found in Proverbs 15:16. "Better a little with the fear of the Lord than great wealth with turmoil." Solomon believed that true wealth came not from material possessions, but from spiritual and moral integrity. The Proverbs attributed to Solomon also reflect a deep concern for the welfare of the community. Throughout the book, Solomon stresses the importance of justice, fairness, and kindness, urging people to act in ways that contribute to the common good. He speaks out against dishonesty, exploitation, and injustice, emphasizing that these behaviors have negative consequences, not only for individuals, but for society as a whole. Solomon's wisdom calls for a commitment to social justice and the betterment of all people, not just the self-serving interests of a few. His proverbs serve as a reminder that a healthy society is built on the principles of honesty, fairness, and mutual respect. Solomon's wisdom, as expressed through the proverbs, transcends time and place. While they were originally meant to guide the people of Israel, the principles they convey are universal. The ideas of wisdom, integrity, justice, and moral responsibility resonate with people across cultures and throughout history. They are timeless because they address the fundamental aspects of human life, relationships, leadership, personal conduct, and the pursuit of a meaningful and fulfilling existence. In conclusion, Solomon's Proverbs represent a deep and enduring legacy of wisdom that continues to offer valuable guidance for navigating the complexities of life. His words are not just philosophical or theological, they are practical and accessible, offering timeless advice on how to live well, make wise decisions, and build strong relationships. Solomon's wisdom, rooted in his understanding of human nature and his reverence for the divine, continues to be a source of inspiration and guidance for people around the world, making him one of the most revered figures in the history of wisdom literature. Solomon's role as a builder and administrator is perhaps one of the most significant aspects of his reign, reflecting his vision for a prosperous and stable kingdom. As the king of Israel, Solomon was not only a leader in terms of governance, but also in the practical realm of infrastructure, architecture, and state organization. His ability to coordinate large-scale projects, manage resources, and create a lasting impact on his kingdom's physical and cultural landscape contributed greatly to the enduring legacy of his rule. The building projects that Solomon oversaw during his reign were not only monumental in their size and scope, but also deeply symbolic of his wisdom, his connection to God, and his vision for Israel's future. The most well-known of Solomon's building projects is, of course, the Temple in Jerusalem. This temple was a symbol of the kingdom's religious devotion and the central place for worship for the Israelites. However, Solomon's influence extended far beyond the temple. His reign was marked by a remarkable era of construction and urban development, with new cities, fortified structures, and expansive roads being built throughout the kingdom. These projects were not just physical structures, but represented Solomon's long-term vision for Israel as a unified, prosperous, and secure nation. The construction of the temple was a monumental task that required immense resources and effort. Solomon's decision to build the temple in Jerusalem as a permanent resting place for the Ark of the Covenant was not only an act of religious devotion, but a political statement. By centralizing worship in Jerusalem, Solomon strengthened the capital of his kingdom, uniting the tribes of Israel under one central location for worship and government. The temple became a physical manifestation of God's presence among the people of Israel, symbolizing the unity and divine favor that Solomon sought to maintain throughout his reign. Beyond the temple, Solomon also built a royal palace for himself in Jerusalem, a structure that rivaled the grandeur of the temple. This palace, described as both luxurious and vast, served as the center of Solomon's administrative and royal activities. It was within this space that Solomon would have conducted the affairs of the state, met with ambassadors, and held court. The construction of such a palace not only demonstrated Solomon's wealth and power, but also reinforced his status as the ruler of a united and prosperous kingdom. His palace was a symbol of his strength, but also of his wisdom in governance, as it represented his ability to manage resources, labor, and materials in such a way that Israel could support both religious and administrative needs. Solomon's building projects also extended to the fortification of cities. He understood the importance of a strong defense to protect his kingdom from external threats. Throughout his reign, Solomon undertook the fortification of several key cities, including Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer. These cities were strategically placed to defend Israel against incursions from neighboring nations. The fortifications that Solomon constructed were not merely defensive in nature, they were also designed to reinforce the power and stability of Israel. These fortified cities served as hubs of trade, commerce, and administration, and their strong walls symbolized the security and strength that Solomon brought to the kingdom. These construction efforts also had a practical aspect, as they helped to stabilize the kingdom's borders, secure its trade routes, and ensure that Israel could resist external pressures. In addition to these defensive and religious buildings, Solomon's reign saw the construction of extensive infrastructure that helped to unite the kingdom and promote its economic prosperity. Solomon recognized that the prosperity of Israel depended not only on military power, but on trade and commerce. He established a number of trade alliances with neighboring kingdoms, and this facilitated the construction of roads and the expansion of trade networks throughout the region. Solomon understood that the physical movement of goods and people was crucial to the kingdom's success, so he invested heavily in improving the infrastructure of Israel. The roads he constructed allowed for more efficient travel, easier communication, and the flow of goods throughout the kingdom. These roads were vital not only for economic purposes, but for maintaining the unity and stability of the kingdom, as they connected different regions and peoples under the central authority of the king. Another significant aspect of Solomon's building endeavors was his engagement with foreign cultures and craftsmen. Solomon's alliances with neighboring kingdoms were not only political, but also economic and cultural. The most famous of these alliances was with King Hiram of Tyre, who provided Solomon with skilled craftsmen, including stonemasons and carpenters, to help construct the temple and other buildings. This collaboration with foreign craftsmen allowed Solomon to access the finest materials and expertise, ensuring that his building projects were of the highest quality. Solomon also imported luxury goods such as cedar wood, precious metals, and fine fabrics from various parts of the ancient world, which further enhanced the grandeur of his constructions. The construction projects undertaken during Solomon's reign had far-reaching effects on Israel's economy and social structure. The labor required for these ambitious endeavors came from a wide range of sources, including conscripted laborers from Israel's own population and workers from surrounding nations. The labor force was highly organized, with skilled workers and laborers divided into various categories, each contributing to the project in different ways. This massive workforce not only provided the physical labor required for these construction projects, but also played a key role in the development of Israel's economy, as many of these workers were also involved in other economic activities, such as agriculture, trade, and craft production. However, it is important to recognize that these building projects were not without controversy. While Solomon's reign brought prosperity to Israel, it also created divisions within the kingdom. The heavy taxation and forced labor used to fund and execute these projects led to resentment among the people, particularly those who were conscripted to work on the king's buildings. After Solomon's death, the burdens of these taxes and labor demands contributed to the eventual division of the kingdom, as the northern tribes rebelled against the centralized authority that Solomon had built. The extensive building projects, while contributing to the kingdom's wealth and security, also placed a strain on the labor force and created tensions that would shape the future of Israel. Despite these tensions, Solomon's legacy as a builder and administrator has endured. His construction projects, from the temple to the royal palace, to the fortified cities and trade infrastructure, left an indelible mark on Israel's landscape and economy. They helped to establish Jerusalem as a political, religious, and cultural center of the ancient world. These monumental structures were not just symbols of power and wealth, but of Solomon's ability to unite his people and manage resources in a way that ensured Israel's prosperity for generations to come. Solomon's role as a builder also extended beyond his immediate reign. The projects he initiated laid the foundation for future generations, and the legacy of his construction efforts would continue to influence the development of Jerusalem and Israel for centuries. The temple, despite being destroyed and rebuilt, remained an enduring symbol of Israel's spiritual identity. The fortified cities and infrastructure projects that Solomon oversaw helped to secure the kingdom's borders and facilitate its trade and cultural exchanges. These lasting contributions to the physical and cultural landscape of Israel are a testament to Solomon's vision and his ability to shape the future of his kingdom through the construction of monumental and lasting works. In conclusion, Solomon's role as a builder and administrator was central to his reign and his legacy. Through his construction projects, he not only created lasting symbols of Israel's religious and political identity, but also established the foundations for a prosperous and secure kingdom. Solomon's ability to manage resources, oversee massive construction efforts, and collaborate with neighboring kingdoms demonstrated his leadership and vision. The buildings and infrastructure he created during his reign became the pillars upon which the future of Israel rested, and his achievements in this regard helped to solidify his place in history as one of the greatest kings of ancient Israel. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like and subscribe for more, and stay curious.